Welcome to the President and CEO Focus on the Middle Market podcast series, where President and CEO founder Paul Stukel discusses middle market issues with business leaders from across the nation. Today he speaks with Andrew Berlin, CEO of Berlin Packaging, about two great American themes, packaging and baseball.
To start out, why don't you, if you could, give us an overview of Berlin Packaging?
Well, Berlin Packaging is a great company. A lot of folks think that Berlin Packaging is a box supplier. We are not. We supply glass and plastic and metal containers and the closures and dispensing systems like sprayers and pumps that go on top of them. We supply everything from drums to pipettes and in between. It's about 35,000 different SKUs, and we sell the empties. So our companies that we do business with will fill it with their product. For example, it might be jellies and preserves from Smucker's, or it might be shampoo from Aveda or Neutrogena. But these kinds of clients will do business with us, and we have various service divisions in our company also that will do business with the smaller companies that don't require a packaging consultant. We also have service division companies that also do banking services for our customers, design services for our customers, marketing services, and consulting services. So it's a very diversified company in the way it goes to market.
Yeah. Now, do you do your own manufacturing of the various products, or is it a combination of manufacturing and outsourcing? How do you produce your products?
Yeah, we contract out our manufacturing. So what we'll do very often is either buying stock products from various manufacturers, or in many cases, more so than ever before, we design our own packaging also, and then we contract it out. We work with about 700 suppliers around the world. By far and away, the majority of the ware that we distribute and sell is made domestically here in the United States, although we do business in China, India, and various parts of the globe. Sure. But we do contract out the manufacturing, then bring it into our distribution centers and our warehouse and supply it just in time.
Gotcha. Now, obviously you've had tremendous growth, it would appear, in the last 10 years. Obviously, part of that's been acquisition, part of that's been organic. But in terms of, why have you been so successful in what obviously everybody else is perceiving as a down market? What's the key to your success?
Well, it's a great question. A lot of people think it's because of our marketing. We have great marketing. A lot of people think it's because of the product development. We have terrific product development folks that do a great job. And we even, in terms of just our aggressive, nature and acquisitions, that's part of it too. But our organic growth has been double-digit for the last 14, 15 years.
Wow.
Certainly in the top line. And we've had record earnings for 24 years now, every year over the prior year. And I have to say, when we really break it down and we look at what our competitive advantage always has been, it's in an unlikely area. It's been in the area of recruiting, training, and overall retention of our stars. So it's not just the good ideas that we have, but I think we've done a phenomenal job in actually recruiting the right people with the right traits and attributes to execute on those good ideas. Many years ago, I'd heard Phil Knight, or actually I didn't hear him. Heard it in an annual report, or read it in an annual report. And then he had been asked how Nike Corporation had grown so dramatically, so quickly in its early years. And a lot of folks thought it was either the endorsements like a Michael Jordan or the commercials or the advertising. And he said, no, it really what it came down to is that Nike Corporation was very good at hiring people who derived joy in killing competition.
That's more than a little shout out to Rockefeller there.
It's more than just simply being competitive. It's really wanting to, waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth and taking a shower, and all the while you're thinking, when you get to work, you got to figure out new ways to crush the other guys.
There you go.
And I love that culture. We have the culture in our company too, even though we're a packaging company, not as sexy as apparel and sneakers. I have to say, it's a terrific business where people come here looking for ways to crush their competition. And it drives a creativity and imagination that is unmatched in any company I've ever been involved with.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, how do you pull that off? Do you have a specific recruiting and retention plan that identifies folks like this? Is there what's the secret sauce there, as it were?
We do. We do have a plan. It begins with a study that we had seen many years ago done by a professor at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford. His name was Jeffrey Pfeffer. And Jeffrey Pfeffer at that time, I had met him years ago and had seen the study that he had done. And if we can just digress for a quick second, you'll understand that the foundation for why we do what we do. During the period of about 1970 and 1990, he had done a study of companies that had increased their market value over 15,000% over that 20-year period. And during that 20-year period, you may recall or have read about, there were a number of recessions that were going on at the time, and it was a tough time for business prior to the 90s. And a lot of companies were going bankrupt in the airline industry and retail, and it was a very difficult time. But he noticed, however, and when he observed and researched which companies had increased 15,000%, he found 5 companies in particular that really, really beat out their competitors and really quite stayed in staple industries. The 5 companies were Walmart, Southwest Airlines, Plenum Publishing, Tyson Foods, and Circuit City. Now, Circuit City needs to have an asterisk next to it because they went
it does.
But they changed their strategy, and I could explain that one. But in any event, when he tried to find the common denominator between these 5 companies, he found that though their marketing and go-to-market strategies were different, what was the absolute same was their HR strategy. And so he was able to boil down all 5 companies' HR strategy into 6 common denominators. And he came to the conclusion, as did I, that that's really what drove the growth. So number one, these 5 companies had a commitment in their bonus programs and their commission programs, a commitment to superior compensation, not just competitive compensation.
Right.
Superior compensation with no caps, no ceilings, and that people could make a ton of money for superior results. Number 2, an emphasis on growth in the culture. A lot of companies don't have that kind of emphasis. They may have an emphasis on status quo or a defensive posture, but they were very aggressive growth companies. Number 3, the culture also had an emphasis on fun. Not fun in lieu of work, but fun while they work, celebrating their victories openly and as teams. And number 4, a huge investment in skill development and the training. There was a very important part of the companies where even when times were tough, they didn't cut their training budgets. Number 5 was a strong leadership culture. Leadership as defined as leaders that could identify the vision for the company and be able to articulate that in a consistent basis across the board, demonstrating where we were at kind of at point A, what the goal was in point B, and how we were going to get there. And we're very, very consistent in that articulation, and also led not only with tremendous integrity, but also a tremendous work ethic, leading by example. So that kind of 3-pronged approach in the leadership. And of course, the cultures also, and lastly, the cultures had strong organizational structure and provided a chance to grow for all of people, not just in middle management, but throughout the organization, because they found that a lot of employees left because they didn't feel like they had a chance to grow within the organization. So culturally, our company, we're voracious learners, and we figured, well, guys, if it's good for those 5 companies, it's got to be good for us. And so we adopted nearly an identical strategy. This was back in 1990, and we developed not just core values, but because I think core values and mission statements and so forth, they end up on the back of business cards and on plaques, but I don't know how often they get lived. Right. But for us, it actually we actually weaved it into our entire recruiting strategy, our training strategy, and even our retention strategy, because let's face it, there's so much focus on the problem employees in a company. You really also have to spend the same amount of attention and time on the people who are your stars, because you can't lose your stars either. So all of our managers, all of our senior managers and executives and everybody throughout the company is very, very focused on the recruiting, training, and retention strategies in every tactical initiative they have, whether it's in operations, marketing, sales, finance, wherever it might be in the company. And we have found that we've been able to attract very bright people who never themselves thought they'd end up in the packaging industry. Maybe they headed for finance, or maybe they headed for engineering or legal or medical professions, but they ended up coming here because it was a sophisticated culture that was willing to reward people and enable them to build great wealth for themselves and their family. And that has driven a tremendous performance in all aspects of our business, because you don't need a real smart guy at the top of the food chain in our company. You need the real smart people who are doing the work in the field and making things happen, and that's what we have.
Well, it sounds like both of those are true, but
well, I've certainly been very honored and lucky to be working with people a lot smarter than myself.
Yeah, well, me too. That's my challenge as well. Although it's very easy to find people smarter than myself. In terms of your growth going forward, I mean, I obviously you're working with I don't know what they call themselves, but a private equity firm,
right?
Effectively. Exactly. They call themselves something different, but they're effectively a PEG. And is your acquisition strategy over now, or are you still? I mean, it would appear that you're really interested in aggregating a lot of different elements here.
We never lose touch with our organic growth. I mean, as we all know, organic growth is the best kind of growth.
Sure.
You don't have to pay for it. There's no debt associated with it. And also being able to prove yourself and win in the marketplace is much different than proving yourself and winning in a boardroom making an acquisition. So because, some companies make acquisitions to cover up the weaknesses within their company, to show growth where there really none has been earned. For us, we never lose touch with the need for organic growth and the prospecting culture that we have in our company. And just to tell you, I'll leave that point in a moment, but it couldn't be more true during a recession, which I still think we're struggling in a slow economy now, despite what the politicians may say, because where in the past your large customers were often growing at say a 10 to 15% growth rate, and so your large customers, as long as you hung on to them, they would grow you. Well, a lot of the large customers aren't growing the way they used to, and so if you want to continue that rate of growth, you have to take share of wallet and share of market away from your competitors. So that prospecting culture is still very, very true. Having said that, there are companies in our industry, direct competitors of ours, where there may be generational change going on, estate planning going on, or maybe some companies that are struggling. And in all of those companies, there are principals that are looking to make a change. Other drivers may be that they're looking to diversify their holdings. Many women and men who own a company, it's been terrific sources of income and wealth for them, but their assets are essentially their company and their house. Right. And it's not a very good investment or portfolio strategy. If someone were to say, got a great idea for your portfolios, put everything you own and everything you have into IBM, you'd say it's the dumbest strategy I ever heard. But a lot of people walk around doing just that.
Right.
So there's an opportunity to diversify and get liquid for a lot of folks. So we present an option for them. Our association with InvestCorp started in the summer of 2007. They've been terrific partners. Number one, it enabled me to get great liquidity and diversification in my own wealth. It also had an opportunity for my father, who was a partner in the business, to retire and with his estate planning and be able to enjoy his liquidity. And so for the last 5.5 years, InvestCorp has been great partners, not just as liquidity partners, but also they have been phenomenal in their talents and skills in the areas of due diligence and integration of acquisitions. And so to that point, we've made 4 acquisitions in the last 2.5 years and have really enjoyed the fruits of those labors. We are still in the hunt for acquisitions today, and we want to buy great companies. And I'm happy to say that the 4 companies we purchased, none of them were struggling companies. All 4 of them were great companies that were still growing and have continued to grow after joining Berlin Packaging. And I have to say it's been wonderful. It's the true. And when you hear the statement used, 1 + 1 = 2, that's in the context of the integration. You don't want to lose any business during that period of time. But post-integration, it turns out 1 + 1 is now equaling 3. Because we're taking the best practices and the best strategies and the best services from each of the companies that we purchased and Berlin Packaging, and we're exchanging all those great ideas and now getting the benefit and the synergies of all the creativity that both organizations bring to the party. So it's kind of turbocharging the growth as well.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean that was one of the things that I was going to ask you about. The it's the acquisition sounds great on paper. I mean, I was in corporate finance for quite a while, and the acquisition always looks great on paper. You can make the numbers work, and it's all beautiful. But the integration is really the key element. And you're right. I mean, I'm sort of bringing the creativity from the acquired company and taking your strengths and pushing them to the that's a tough process. It's a tough process. I mean, it sounds like you've dealt with that pretty well.
Yeah, it's and again, I think we could have done it without InvestCorp, but certainly with the literally hundreds of companies they've bought and sold over the last decade, if not thousands, they're real experts, and they've been terrific partners too.
Oh, that's great. So what are the major challenges? Well, okay, before I go there. You're primarily domestic in terms of your market, not in terms of your sourcing. But you're primarily domestic. Is that correct?
Correct, it is.
Do you have any plans to expand globally?
Yes, we feel that the formula that we have for even though we are in the kind of the market of distribution, we're really not quite a distributor. Distributors, as you know, is in the basic model is from one large purchase equals many small sales.
Yeah.
And that's not really what we do. It's really from one large sale, we then organize one large purchase. And so, and then in the context in which we bring that to market is we're doing it in a fashion that helps improve the overall net income of our customers by helping them increase their sales through our design studio, or we perform these banking services for our customers by loaning money at 0% interest to help them make capital expenditures. And they pay us back over time, but the service is offered at 0% cost in exchange for packaging business. So we have very complex, but very fruitful transactions with our customers. And I think the business model of focusing on a customer's net income and being able to prove it and quantify it and actually do it, that travels. Now, how far it travels, we're looking at South America, we're looking at Europe, we're looking at Asia, various points of the globe. But we have not found a company out there that does business like we do it. And it's unlikely that we will. But having said that, there are some really great companies out there. But it's just going to be, the challenge will be culture. The culture that I've described is a hard-charging culture combined with an HR strategy. And that kind of buy-in is required from anybody we do business with. Now, having said that, if you buy a company, say, for example, in Europe, you're not going to get the same kind of synergies as you would with an acquisition here in the United States.
Yep.
Because it's unlikely you would find any cost reductions in the backroom functions to achieve a certain post-synergy multiple that you might be trying to to get. But the long and the short of it is that if you can get a synergy at the revenue line, where by bringing these services and bringing these ideas and bringing the strategy to another company, you might be able to increase revenues more so than they're currently doing so now. But we want to be careful, though. I mean, we have a great formula, and going international has its own attractions, but also has its own detractions. We don't want to get distracted, and we still have a very, very large market to go after here in the United States that we don't have. And so, obviously, the goal is to make as much money as possible for our employees and for our investors. And right now, the United States of America is still the best market for us. But having said that, if we find a good company overseas, we'll certainly make a pitch to purchase them.
Right. So, what's your major challenge? What is the thing that keeps you up at night?
It's always people. It's always people. Yeah. Generally it's the people that work for us. I spend a huge percentage of my job in recruiting, in training, and developing people in our company. And I always fear that we'd lose our stars. I'm always afraid that people aren't developing as fast as they'd like to. I always want to live up to my promise that people have a chance to grow in our company, that we're going to put them in a position to make a lot of money, that they work in a place where there's a strong family atmosphere, a good sense of collegiality. And I want to be the best leader I can be. So let's face it, no one likes to be on a bus if they don't have confidence in the bus driver. So I try to be the best I can be in that respect. But the things that keep me up at night is not necessarily customer related. I think we treat our customers extremely well. We quantify performance along the lines there, so I'm able to measure how we're doing. We do Net Promoter Score in our company, so I'm always looking at the measurements in terms of how customer loyalty is being ranked. But yeah, it's always people that keeps me up at night, and but I think that's good. That makes that I'm making sure I'm taking care of the people who are making the ideas come to life.
Yeah. Okay, now to the fun stuff. The Silverhawks. Although
that wasn't fun. Berlin packaging wasn't.
No, actually no, it was very fun. Actually no, it was fascinating. I didn't mean to say that.
Okay, let's go to baseball.
Let's go to baseball. I mean, come on. Yeah. So how in heaven's name did you get involved? Because they're the Diamondbacks A team, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they're affiliated with the Diamondbacks. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in that?
Well, it's very easy to answer. It started with the White Sox. I became a limited partner at the White Sox. My oldest daughter, Alex, is friends with a young lady whose grandfather was one of the original investors with Jerry Reinsdorf in 1981.
Interesting.
The gentleman was getting older, and I think looking to do some estate planning, and wanted to sell his share in the Sox. But because it's not a very liquid asset, and new owners have to be approved by Major League Baseball and by Jerry Reinsdorf, it was a very limited pool that he could look to sell his shares to. And well, between my daughter and her girlfriend, she hooked me up with her grandfather, and the rest is history. So I became a limited partner of the White Sox. Since then, there have been a number of other limited partners that have been looking to sell their shares, and I've participated in the purchase of those shares as well. But as a limited partner, as you might imagine, and it's a limited existence in terms of your impact on the operations or strategy of the baseball team. And so you enjoy some of the perks of ownership, but you don't really enjoy the operations as much as you'd like to, or be involved in the operations.
Right.
So I really wanted to see what baseball was like, and of course I love baseball. I have all my life. I love the White Sox, and they're a great organization. I've really admired just through observation how the organization works. The front office and the back office. It's such a great collection of experts and folks that just really make it a great company, not just a great ball club. And so the opportunity came up to purchase a minor league baseball team. I was introduced to the Silverhawks. It was owned at that time by the former governor of Indiana, Joe Kernan, and a group of his investors. And at that time, the team was struggling. And so as a consequence of its struggle, its market value was less than maybe what other similar affiliates would have been valued at. And so I saw it as a business opportunity first. And plus, South Bend is really not that far away from downtown Chicago. It's about an hour and a half away, maybe a little bit less with no traffic. And so for me, it was also an opportunity to buy a team that I could actually go to the games and enjoy and not be an absent owner. So over a period of time last year, I did the due diligence on the team and I purchased the team on November 11th, 2011 at 11:11 p.m.
Oh man, good man. Little appreciation for history there. Well done.
That's right. It's Armistice Day.
Yep.
But because baseball enthusiasts are also superstitious, we thought it'd be good luck to do it because Apollo 11 went to the moon.
There you go.
Everything was 11 that day.
Right.
So in any event, we closed the deal and we were off to the races. And we turned the team around. We had a phenomenal inaugural season last year. It was at least inaugural in the sense that it was my first season.
Yeah.
The team has been there since the 80s. But the long and the short of it is, and they were actually a White Sox affiliate at the time. But the Diamondbacks have been terrific to work with. Minor League Baseball, in a lot of ways, is just even more fun than Major League Baseball, just given the proximity that families have to the players and to the experience is much, much closer, much, much greater, and is terrific. And so I feel maybe I'm in training one day for a Major League ball club. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, the turnaround. I mean, I understand you invested a fair amount of money in infrastructure and the stadium itself and marketing. Right. I mean, that seems to be working pretty well, according to the information I've got.
Yeah, the attendance was up 68% over the prior year.
Yeah.
So from an attendance standpoint, it was terrific. In minor league baseball, you don't have the regional sports networks or the TV media rights. So your revenue streams are very much tied to attendance, because the revenue stream is about the gate receipts, the food and beverage, the sponsorships, the advertising, and the merchandise sales.
Right.
And so everything is driven by attendance at that point. And so it's so important. And I have to say that the whole Michiana region of northern Indiana, southwest Michigan, really responded beautifully. We have about a 750,000 person demographic, about a 40-minute drive around our home plate in all directions. So, our goal this year is to get about a 250,000 of them to come to our ballpark. And then once we hit that number, we'll look at further additions to the stadium and more seats and more platforms and more party areas. But I think it's got to be one of the nicest minor league stadiums in all of the country. We were certainly voted the best renovation of all the ballparks in the United States by Baseball Digest. So we did get a ranking there. But it's a gorgeous park, about an hour and a half from downtown Chicago. So it's a family of four can actually enjoy a great night with fireworks for $40, $50, which is really unheard of at a major league ball club.
Yeah.
And then the promotions we put in place too really helped a lot. For example, we have Flat Screen Fridays, where we give away a 32-inch flat screen every inning of every Friday night game throughout the season. So and people love that. We have the Belly Buster Monday for $12. All the hamburgers and hot dogs and beer and pop you can drink. So you get all these kind of fun promotions. But I have to say there was a lot of crossover from baseball to packaging too, which was kind of interesting. We ranked the customer experience not just in Berlin packaging, but at the Silverhawks through what we call a Net Promoter Score. It was a system developed by Bain & Company that we've been using. And we found that a lot of our customers really had a mediocre experience the year prior to me getting there. And so we broke down the whole customer experience from the moment they're approaching the ballpark and they're starting to hit traffic before they get to our parking lot. Already, what are we trying to do to try to alleviate some of that traffic? And then we take each of the customer experience touch points and we break it down. And as a group, we met to focus on how to thrill the fans at every one of those touch points. For example, some of our lines at the will call window were rather long, because people over the years have had the experience where they can just walk up to the window and buy a ticket because there was never a sellout. Well, we had 7 sellouts this year, and so people were waiting in long lines in will call. So we thought, well, next year if people are waiting in long lines, we should have an attendant walking up and down the line with a huge cooler of frozen wet towels that we can hand to people while they're waiting in line if it's warm outside and they're sweating.
Right.
So we'll hand out these disposable, cold frozen towels, and then stapled to it will be a little thing saying how to go online next time to get your tickets printed out so you don't have to wait in this line. Or we worked out issues where we had a lot of older folks and infirm folks, from the parking lots trying to get to the turnstiles. We bought a whole bunch of golf carts and then branded them with South Bend Silverhawks. Now we give people rides from the parking lots to their turnstiles so they don't have to walk. So, at every particular touch point, we were trying to improve it and try to thrill our folks. We monitor the social feeds during the game, and if people are complaining about food, we'll ask them where they're sitting, and we'll bring them, a new hot dog or a new pretzel if they don't like it, and we can do that within minutes. And that, it's the kind of service you'd expect in a fine restaurant, not in a ballpark.
Yeah.
So it's every one of these little touch points. We have attendants in our bathrooms, like in a restaurant, who will stay in the bathroom all throughout the game. They're wearing pleated shirts with black bow ties, and they're handing out mints and soap and towels to people who are in the stadium, the ballpark stadium. This is what we have.
Right.
We got the cleanest bathrooms in baseball. But this is what our focus groups were telling us that people wanted. So you can do the same thing in the packaging business. You can break down those touch points to, at least in our business, we broke it down to 28 major touch points. We've met with task forces, and we figured out how to, let's not strive for customer satisfaction. Why merely satisfy if you can go for the thrill?
Be sure to check back at PRESIDENT&CEOMagazine.com for future episodes in the President and CEO Focus on the Middle Market podcast series. Thanks for listening.